time for a swim. Another solid day. And what a day it was. Man, a lot of meetings today, a lot of productivity. But I had to squeeze out every bit of it. Poor Yumiko is getting really hammered today. Glad she's only got, what is it? May. 7 months left for her. Can't come soon enough. Wish she could just get on a plane tomorrow and go. It's so funny, interesting. I wonder if it came upon us because of our age or because of our anticipation. Or we've just kind of reached the end of the line. Oh, this is the last day. It's Halloween day. Our last chance to see these guys. And those guys. The kitty. And that kitty. Okay. Well, time to get in the water. So I'm worried about my neighbor Bob. There's just... the horror show is everywhere, isn't it? Everybody's... Sorry. So jingly. Everybody's suffering to a greater or lesser degree. And Bob seems to be going down quickly. He and his wife. So I'm going to have a talk with Yumiko tonight about what she thinks we should do. Well, you know what I'll do? I've got some people that I know in public social services. I'll ask them for their advice too. Maybe they can give me some good ideas about, how to help the elderly when they're in need. Oh, there we go. Okay, the wind's up a little bit. It was hot earlier. It's definitely cooler now. Tide's way out still. Coming that way or that way? We're good. Angela's not out yet. Waves are down. So what does it mean to be always ready to die? It means to have our affairs in order, all of our relationships in good shape, and our life's work complete. Oh, you can see the cover, the dome for the Spruce Goose. That's Long Beach Harbor. Do you see the white dome dead in the center? If I hold it straight. That's used to hold the Spruce Goose, Howard Hughes's big wooden airplane. Huh. So what does it mean to make good and effective use of time? That means to not waste the days or to let them pass taken in any way for granted, but to make good use of the time in whatever way we determine to be fit or good. Oh, glass. Look at that. But definitely can. The best way to make, for me, my perspective, my opinion, my impression, the very best use of time is when we apply it to the pursuit of virtue, where virtue is nothing more than the pursuit of the well-being, of the improved well-being of thinking creatures. Whatever we can do to that end constitutes virtue. It is an excellent use of time. Like picking up that piece of glass, dumping it in the trash can there. That was a really good use of time. Coming here to the beach now and walking slowly and quietly. We'll go way over here now. Slowly. Okay, let me not walk so fast. I'm a little nervous because the wind is blowing, the day is late, the water's chill. etc., etc. I'm just gonna hop in for a second. I keep waiting for the day to come when the season will pass into winter, into the cold season in earnest. Hasn't quite happened yet. Good use of time. Always ready to die. Next is to develop and maintain. That guy's making a good use of time. The guy swimming right there. Very good use of time. Next is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. For me, that's the Good Life Creed. This very thing I'm reciting right now. That too is a very good use of time. Hardly any better use of time. In my simple estimation. Oh my goodness, it's cold. Yes. Now I'm just going to pop in for a sec. Ooh, it's the wind. The wind is doing it. Next is to cultivate good emotional reactions, just to react well to whatever happens in life. And then to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. To recognize true limits and true opportunities, to know where the lines are along the way. What I can and cannot likely do. What's reasonable and what isn't to try. To keep my balance. That's tough to do as well. bottom of a stack of Sir William's manuscripts, he found a faded and battered volume, which proved to be one of Boswell's journals. Following this serendipitous find, Abbott had conducted a systematic search and kept coming across more, including a loose packet labeled in Boswell's hand concerning ladies. Among its contents, Abbott was startled to find a lock of fair hair. From the farthest corner of the attic, he dragged out a sack stuffed tight with Boswell's letters. His final haul was a collection approximately half as much again as that already owned by Isham. Abbott's monumentous discovery had been kept secret at the wish of Lord Clinton, owner of Fettingcairn House, where the papers were found. In April 1931, he had consulted Humphrey, Milford, and R.W. Chapman, two senior officials at the Oxford University Press, about the possibility of publishing the manuscripts. They were in principle prepared to proceed, provided that the copyright issue could be resolved. It was by no means clear whether Lord Clinton was in position to license the copyright, or even whether these papers of Boswell's belonged to him. Clinton wanted these questions answered before the discovery was made public, and the matter kept private until the papers had been catalogued and the catalog published. Within the Clarendon Press, the academic arm of Oxford University Press, the project was given to the code name Operation Hush. The delay was, of course, very damaging to Isham, who proceeded with his edition of the Boswell papers, ignorant of the existence of the Fettercairn find. Indeed, it compromised Chapman, who had sought Isham's assistance with his own edition of Johnson's letters, and who was due to publish the index to Isham's edition. Another kept in the dark all this time was L.F. Powell, who was engaged in revising Hill's 6-volume edition of the Life of Johnson for the Oxford University Press. Not until after the 4th volume was published was he told of this important discovery, which had been known to the publishers almost 5 years. Complex litigation followed over the next decade to determine the ownership both of the copyright in the Fettercairn papers and of the papers themselves. In the meantime, Isham had found more papers at Malahide, a tin dispatch box containing fragments of Boswell's journal, a diary of Johnson's, and various other papers. The Talbots agreed that he should have these for his collection without further payment. How did he get a diary of Johnson's, I wonder? By the time war broke out in Europe in 1939, Isham was exhausted and depressed. He had spent most of his fortune and was living alone in a New York hotel. He had married again for the 3rd time in 1937, but the marriage only lasted a few months. His beloved daughter died, leaving 2 children. His own health deteriorated. Relations with Pottle had frayed after a succession of financial wrangles. The litigation over the Fettercairn papers was unresolved. Claimants to the copyright included an ever-increasing number of Boswell's descendants, as well as Lord Clinton and even the Cumberland Infirmary. Without these, his collection was incomplete. His whole effort had been devoted to bringing the Boswell papers together, and it seemed that events had conspired to thwart him. He was therefore thunderstruck to receive a cable early in 1941 reporting the discovery of yet another cache of Boswell's manuscripts at Malahide. At the outbreak of war, the local parish council had asked the Talbots if the loft of one of their farmyard buildings might be used as an emergency grain store. The loft was stuffed with old furniture, and to clear it, a rotting staircase had to be replaced. In October 1940, workmen clearing the loft found 2 large packing cases in the far corner, repositories for more Boswell papers, including most of the manuscript of the Life of Johnson. What? How did it get there? Isham was upset when the Talbots asked him to pay for these further manuscripts, not for their own benefit, but in aid of Ayrshires air raid victims. He sent Lady Talbot an emotional letter which could easily have led to the breakdown of negotiations between them. Fortunately, she did not take lasting offense at his outburst, and after the war, Isham was able to purchase the Greenloft cache to add to the Boswell manuscripts already in his possession. With the help of a generous interest-free loan from the collector Donald F. Hyde. Eventually, too, Isham managed to raise the money to buy out the remaining claimants to the Fettercairn find, which could now be reunited with the rest of the Boswell papers after a separation of more than 150 years. On 28th of July, 1948, the Queen Mary, birthed in New York, bearing the Fettercairn manuscripts. Oh, really? The Queen Mary is right over here. I can almost see it from here. On the 20th of July, 1948, the Queen Mary, birthed in New York, bearing the Fettercairn manuscripts. Their arrival was announced on CBS News, and Isham's photograph subsequently appeared on the front page of the New York Times. Sadly, Isham himself could not be present to greet them. He had been stricken by a serious illness, which kept him in bed for months. So the Queen Mary, I wonder if I can see it. I can't see it. I know the general area though. But he recovered sufficiently to complete the negotiations with the Yale University for the purchase of the complete collection. Negotiations which had been in train for some years, in which Hyde had played an important part. On the 14th of July, 1949, the Boswell papers arrived at Yale University Library under armed guard. The name of one of the campus policemen escorting the 8 Boswell trunks into their new home was Edmund Malone. Even then, the extraordinary story of the Boswell papers was not finished. In 1950, Lady Talbot produced a fresh suitcase full of oddments, some 500 or so items, which Yale University bought to add to its collection, and only a year afterwards, Isham heard that an old deed box had been unearthed containing more Boswell manuscripts. "My God," he exclaimed, "is there no end to the Boswell saga?" A trickle of Boswell papers has continued ever since. In 1961, for example, the door of an old chest-on chest, which had been stuck closed for many years, sprang open while being moved by workmen. Inside was a drawer containing more of Boswell's vast archive. Still remaining to be found are several important batches of Boswell papers, including those letters to Temple not retrieved by Major Stone, Boswell's journal in Holland, and most important of all, his correspondence with Johnson. Wow, they still haven't found that. At Yale, an editorial committee was established, headed by Pottle, to oversee the publication of the Boswell papers. Its administrative offices within the university library soon became known as the Boswell Factory. The editorial committee was supported by a larger advisory committee consisting of 24 scholars, half American, half British. Anticipating widespread interest, the editors decided to produce 2 editions, one for the general reader and one for scholars, totaling perhaps 40 or 50 volumes. The Boswell papers, publishers proudly announced, are the largest and most important find of English literary manuscripts ever made. The first volume to be published, Boswell's London Journal, 1950, was instantly recognized as the classic. Plaudits resounded around the world. Malcolm Muggeridge described it as a unique book, and its publication as a unique literary event. Stephen Spender praised it as an extraordinary work of art, as much an experiment in time in its way as Proust's greatest work. William Plummer hailed Boswell as a great creative writer. As part of the Fettercairn find, Boswell's London Journal had not formed part of Isham's privately published edition of the Boswell Papers, and was therefore being made available to readers for the very first time. The journal provided an account of Boswell's second visit to London, from the time he left Edinburgh in the autumn of 1762 until his departure for Holland in the summer of 1763. This was a particularly interesting period, encompassing Boswell's first meeting with Johnson and the formation of their friendship. It also marked the beginning of Boswell's experiment in keeping a fully written journal, which was to prove so important in his life. This particular journal exerted a special charm, written as it was by a young man in his early 20s, full of hope and vigor, experiencing life with corresponding freshness. It related his erotic escapades, his seduction of Louisa, for example, or his encounter with two very pretty little girls in a room at the Shakespeare's Head Tavern in Covent Garden. The public lapped up such detail. It was pleasant to be able to read about behavior not normally described in respectable publications, in a work acknowledged as literature. Even today, the mention of Boswell's name is apt to provoke a smirk. Published in 1950, nearly 200 years after it was written, Boswell's London Journal sold almost 1 million copies. After such a start, subsequent sales were bound to be disappointing, and so it proved, with the print runs of later volumes in the series dwindling to only a few thousand copies. Nevertheless, Boswell had penetrated the public consciousness, and the effect was to create a new interest in him as an individual, distinct from Boswell, the biographer of Johnson. In many ways, Boswell's London Journal was a more approachable book than Boswell's Life of Johnson, and the lively young man whose adventures it chronicled was a more attractive figure than the elderly, domineering, and sometimes cantankerous individual evoked in his biography. Attitudes that had changed in the 120-odd years since Malachi's slurs, conduct that had seemed reprehensible now seemed forgivable, even admirable. 20th century readers were less judgmental, more inclined to see personal feelings as foibles, also less admiring, more inclined to skepticism about moralists and moralizing. Modern biography was revealing the lives of subjects as never before. Few heroes could survive such scrutiny unscathed. In this context, Boswell's cheerful frankness appeared more sympathetic than Johnson's solemn reticence. I think that's enough for now. I leave off before? I think it was with I think I got through the objectives. I have to go through the principles. The first principle is called the principle of war. That principle reminds me to always be at war with everything that I already think is true. Whatever I believe or have an inclination towards, if it's important, I should question it. Re-question it. If it's not important, if it's incidental, then it doesn't matter. But the important stuff deserves to be considered over and again. That's the continual war that I have to keep on doing all the time. Principle number 2 is the principle of reason. And the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. I have to be honest with myself and others. Objective in my view. And a fierce skeptic on all times. Again, towards what's important. I don't have to be that way or hold those that frame of mind towards anything that's not important. Just the important stuff. Principle of reason, honesty, objectivity, and doubt. Next comes the homunculus. My reminder that I don't have a soul. None of us do. All we've got is just our little being that exists for the bit of time that we're alive. And then after that, it's nothing but oblivion. Complete oblivion, for that matter. The anchor hold is next. A little place where the homunculus, the little bits of our consciousness resides on an island of sorts, in a rock sticking out of the sea, where we stand, each of us, all alone on our own little rock, while the ocean rises and falls around us, the cold waves crash, and the wind blows, and the rain comes down, and the sun shines from time to time. And we exist for a while until we get swept off the rocks, or we fall off, or we jump off, in some cases. I say objectivity. War, reason, homunculus, anchor hold, home of good and evil. Good and evil reside within us as opinions. They don't exist on their own anywhere else. It's up to us to maintain a catalog of good and evil, right and wrong. The home of good and evil resides with the homunculus. Next comes the principle of purpose. My purpose is to be a virtuous man. Okay, now there were 3. What were the purposes? It's been so long since I've done this. Purpose would be to be, virtue is one. Gosh, I can't quite remember what they were. I'll have to look it up. Biology, oh yeah. Biology, virtue, and mission. Those are the three. Biology being the mandate to reproduce and to raise a child to adulthood. Mission being whatever personal mission I choose for myself. Biology, virtue, oh yeah, biology, I'm getting it wrong. Biology is to raise a child to adulthood. Virtue is to be a virtuous man, pursuing the well-being of thinking creatures. And then mission is whatever mission I choose for myself. That's it. Oh, here we go. Green light. Okay, so that's purpose. Next is the atomic principle. I think that's next. Atomic principle suggests that everything is made of bits and pieces, atoms and molecules, and we're all falling to pieces, including you and me. And then the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's good to recognize what that nature is. This community of Huntington Beach has its nature, this beach culture, houses like this. And I love this beachy Halloween-y house. Isn't that cool? It's Halloween night. Oh, they got all kinds of candy. It's their nature to be very festive and participants in the holiday. It's the nature of the people who live at this house to have a bunch of teenagers that are kind of young and thank you, young and loud and ambitious. It's the nature of this community to have its particular feel, to be at the end of October and still be beach weather. That's the principle of nature. Nature. What's after? Oh, maturity is next. The principle of maturity. Maturity consists of what are the sub-principles of maturity? Well, if I can't remember, I can look it up. It's right here in the damn book. What is the sub-principles of maturity? I have a copy of Going Alone right here. Look up the chapter titled The Good Life. Well, fun. Ooh, I forgot one. I forgot the pirate ride. Principle of maturity, his sub-principles are wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. But I forgot about the pirate ride. So the pirate ride is a principle that describes free will as an illusion, yet a very convincing illusion. I don't think that we are free. I don't think we're determined by anything either. I think we're simply compatible with the universe at large. our lives kid had a pumpkin on his head. By being compatible with the universe at large, that means that we abide what's going on. We don't have any other choice. It's like I can abide gravity. I can do things and maybe counter it in some ways, but still even those are compatible. To a greater or lesser degree. Well, no greater or lesser degree, to an absolute degree. We're absolutely compatible. What's variable is the subatomic universe. That introduces, it seems to introduce some randomness into the system. But still, so that's beyond us. Okay, that's enough of the pirate ride. Free will is an illusion. Next is maturity, wisdom, and the maturity consists of, what did I say it was? Honesty? No. Wisdom, fortitude, and integrity are the sub-principles of maturity. Then comes the sub-principle. Sub-principles are diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. And then the principle of family with the sub-principle, single sub-principle of catalyst. I think that's enough for now. Okay, I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to wish you all the best. Thanks for joining me. Be safe. No. What do I say for this Wabi-Sabi lens? Live your Wabi-Sabi life. Take care. Oh, I should check.